I was overweight because my mother loved us with food, so I was really kind of chunky. And I walked into a baseball bat and I had a nose that came off the side of my face. My entire high school senior years, the last 3 years of high school, was spent seeing my dad in the hospital almost every night. So my mother turned to me one day in the hospital room and said, "Kiddo, we have no money for college. I'm really sorry." That was my only dream. I was going to be a lawyer. I was going to do something, with this smartness. The phone rings out of the blue, and it's ESPN. I'm like, okay, what do you want? We'd like to offer you a $75,000 2-week job to host the X Games. And then these 2 binders show up, and then 300 athletes. I didn't know any of them. And now it dawns on me they've made a mistake. They've seen me play a reporter on some TV show. They saw the comedy thing and they're thinking I can do this.
The queen of pitch and one of the most dynamic women in media.
Forbes Riley has generated over $2.5 billion in product sales.
She has rewritten the rules at every turn. She's a walking masterclass in reinvention.
And today, we're going behind the pitch to explore the mindset, grit, and soul behind her legendary career.
My guest today sold over $2.5 billion in product, 200 plus pitches, infomercials, and she is the queen of the pitch.
That was an awesome intro. You win.
But you know what? It's so much more than that, because how you got there, man, most people would be like, there is no way that this girl turned into this girl. And I said to you yesterday, wow, you offer women so much hope. And that is your pain to purpose story. We're going to unpeel it back. I want to hear every story. I want to get to the raw
You
Forbes
just inspire
Riley.
me to want to be better. Do you know that?
Okay, I want to take back. So I want people to know who Forbes Riley really is. I mean, because when people meet you, they know in a quick, short period of time that they're not meeting just an average person. They're meeting someone who's a game changer, a world changer. So, but I say all that to say that these people that are world changers like yourself come from something extraordinary, from pain to purpose typically. Take us back to a childhood. I want to know what formed you. I do.
So I grew up in Long Island, Oceanside, Long Island, a very sleepy town near the water, but about 30 minutes from New York City. But I don't think we knew that because it was a very quiet town. My dad was, he was an inventor. He was an engineer. He built printing presses. Didn't have a college education, which was interesting. He was just really smart and very introverted. He was also a magician. And he vowed that his little girl was going to learn magic. So I've been doing magic since I was a little girl. And what magic...
You do. She does magic, folks.
I do magic at dinner tables. I used to make doves appear. I did all the talent shows as a magician. And there's something unique about being able to do a trick for someone. You can look and just do, oh, here's a card or here's a dove. You have to set it up. The same way I do pitching is to establish a reality that may not exist before I start talking about it. So that skill, who knew it was going to turn into this? And my mom is a daughter of an immigrant who's a butcher. And she was a bit of a hoarder. She held on to things. She was a dreamer, but a quiet dreamer. So I've got these 2 parents who are very quiet. We had no other family. I had a younger sister. And I was 4 years old when I found my grandma dead in my bedroom.
Oh my gosh.
And I remember my grandfather had just passed away. My newborn sister was there. And my mother was sad. And she was crying. She just lost both her parents, in her only family, except for us. And I remember thinking, I want to make this woman happy. And for most of my life, my entire focus, whether it was getting A's in school, I got a lot of them. I have lots of achievements. I wanted to prove to my parents that happiness existed for them. And it was really my mission.
So what was driving you was making them happy?
Yeah. I was a top A student. I skipped year of high school, skipped year of college. I have a list of accolades a mile long because the goal was, and I didn't know it, was to just make them happy. I love them and they love me so much. Now, along the way, there were some bumps. So I'm 8 years old and I go off to elementary school and they notice that my teeth went in all different directions. And
some are teeth, some are here, some are there. Yeah.
Well, I sucked my thumb. I think there was kind of an insecure little habit. And the crazy thing is they took a mold of my mouth from 1968. My mother still has, I still have the mold, which we take out at Halloween and to scare kids because it's nasty. And I've come to understand that everyone does the very best they can at that moment. I believe my parents were doing this to help me. I believe the orthodontist was doing it. But he put this little girl, who I thought was kind of cute, in braces for 8 years. That's your entire childhood. I had silver. I had rubber bands. I had headgear. And then when I was 8 and a half, they screwed a thing to the roof of my mouth called a tongue thruster. I started talking like this. and showing them a little girl, and nobody can understand a single word that I said.
That was a
Right.
pretty good imitation.
Well, not only that, but I had big, frizzy black hair. I was overweight because my mother loved us with food, so I was really kind of chunky. And I walked into a baseball bat, and I had a nose that came off the side of my face.
So no offense, but you would say your identity or false identity was you were pretty fugly then.
Fugly? I
Yeah.
never heard that.
Yeah, I mean,
But now I
meaning-
just put those two words. Yes,
yeah,
I was
yeah.
fugly.
Meaning like, you just described something pretty bad, right?
And
Yeah.
so-
So that didn't do well for your
Self-esteem?
Self-esteem.
Not at all. But I was smart. And that was the thing that I had. I was
Yeah.
really smart. I used to hang out with the principal doing linguistics when I was in second grade. I was doing it was amazing that intellect, but I couldn't communicate with people. I couldn't talk to friends. I had no friends, and except for my parents. And it was a very unusual childhood. I watched a lot of television, a lot of movies, and I formulated some ideas. I wanted to be James Bond. I would watch that and like, I imagined that I could snow ski and wear great gowns and go to
I remember that one. Remember the scene where skiing down and went through the restaurant thing?
Right.
And, yeah.
And you're like, this is a really sexy, fun life. Nothing like what my life looked like. But I had this dream because I watched the Academy Awards and I imagined if somebody was living that dream, could that ever be me? And that was definitely a driving force for everything. Certainly as I got older, I have James Bond moments.
Okay, but how did you imagine it would be the fugly little girl with the bad identity, right? Because you knew you weren't attractive at that point. It made you insecure, I'm sure. So how did you possibly think you were going to be able to be the next James Bond or this life anyway?
I don't know if I thought I could be. I just wanted it. And so it was set in motion. Remember I started this conversation about what do you want?
Yes.
I
Want.
wanted that. There was no way.
All right,
by the
that's
way.
good.
If you ask me logically how, no idea
Yeah.
how. I just wanted it.
Was there something in your brain that thought, I probably can't, but I still want it?
No, never thought about that. I can't.
Okay, wow.
In fact,
Okay.
that's one of my superpowers. I don't know what I can and can't
Yeah.
do anyway. And neither
Yeah.
do you.
Yeah.
So stop saying that you can't.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
Lesson number one,
Lesson
write
number
that
one.
down, right? You don't know anyway, so why are we saying it?
Why would I say no?
Yeah.
If somebody's doing it, why not me, is what I always thought.
Yeah.
And so when I was about 15 years old, my dad, as if things couldn't get weirder, my dad as an engineer slipped one day on a printing press and ripped off the whole front of his left hand.
Oh, gosh.
From his fingers
That's called degloved.
is that what it is? Yeah, okay. It's not
Yeah.
nice. He spent 3 years in the hospital, had 15 different operations. I learned about skin grafts on your legs. At one point, they sliced open his arm, stuck his hand inside his arm, and let this part grow onto a new palm. It was 1975. Fascinating kind of technology.
Gosh, yeah.
And I had a great respect for hospitals. My entire high school senior years, the last 3 years of high school, was spent seeing my dad in the hospital almost every night. And then we were broke because they will deplete your money until you have none before they can give you aid. So my mother turned to me one day in the hospital room and said, "Kiddo, we have no money for college. I'm really sorry." That was my only dream. I was going to be a lawyer. I was going to do something, with this smartness and this ugly face. And my dad's doctor, and this is where I have this philosophy, lesson number 2, believe it, achieve it. Well, dream it first. Dream it, believe it, and achieve it. And the believe part is say your dream out loud. You get some dream in your head. You talk about it and watch how things manifest because you believe it's possible.
And why out loud?
Because then other people hear it. So if I tell you my dream,
Accountability there.
it becomes a reality. I will fast forward a minute and I'll tell you some of the dreams, some of the crazy dreams that I spoke out loud that have become my reality. And so my dad's doctor overheard my mother and I talking. She said, "We have no money for college, but there is this thing called the Miss Teenage America pageant that's coming to town, and they're offering a scholarship." And then she looked at my face and said, "But that's not going to be for us." I will tell you, that's a 50-year-old memory that I have never forgotten.
How did you feel right there? Can you remember how you felt?
I know exactly how I felt. I just felt sad that I couldn't do anything for my family. I felt sad that I, in fact, was ugly. And I believe, and I knew my mom was trying to protect me. She was not mean, there was not a mean bone in her body. I was just sad that this was the lot that I had. I would go to bed every night. I would push my nose in. I would pull out the kinky hair. It was bad. Luckily, there was no suicide conversations when I was a kid. There was no social media.
Yeah, today it's different.
It would have been very different.
Yeah.
And Marsha Brady, by the way, was the example of beauty.
She so was, yeah.
She was hair down the middle, straight blonde hair. And by the way, here's how I knew I was
she was
ugly.
hot. Yeah.
Do you remember when they threw a football, hit her in the nose?
Yes, I remember that episode.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Because she had a broken nose, she wasn't pretty enough to go to the prom.
Yeah.
So now it reinforced that I was in fact ugly.
Oh, gosh.
I know. And so
And you're probably thinking, Marcia, if I had that nose, I'd be sad. It's like, you don't have this
well,
nose.
by the way, she got to go to the prom with Bobby Sherman. And I remember just, or Davy Jones, I think. It was Davy Jones.
I don't remember that part. Yeah.
I loved all of those guys. I had crushes on everybody. I was just this dreamer. And the funny thing is my dad's doctor turned to us and said, I'm going to fix your daughter's nose. Now, you're a doctor. You studied this. I had no idea really what he was talking about. But it was very hard to breathe. And he watched us suffer as a family. And I have these photos, and I'm going to give them to you to put up here because I think you want to see this.
Oh, yeah.
It's very hard to conceptualize what I'm talking about when you see the two images, because I woke up a few days later, Daniel, and I looked in the mirror, and this cute girl looked back at me. She had big eyes. The braces were off. She had a smile. She had this cute little nose. And I looked at her, and I said, we're going to save our family. We're going to enter this goofy pageant, and we're going to win. I have no reason to say any of this. I had to go scrounge up a hand-me-down bridesmaid's dress because I had no money. My talent was tap dancing, and I still had kind of chunky thighs, but I wanted it so bad. I didn't tell anybody in school. I had to go. There was a series of auditions, and there were 500 girls when I walked into the first meeting. And I looked at them. I'm grabbing my dad's good hand, and I said, one of these girls is going to be on TV with Bob Hope on NBC.
Okay. We're going to pick up, but it's like, stop there. Okay, because... all you got is the nose fixed, right? You still had the teeth, though.
No, the braces had just come off.
Okay, the braces finally came off.
So now I'm looking at, and you'll see the picture. You will literally see it before and after. You won't even recognize the two girls. They don't look like sisters.
Wow. Okay, so new nose, new teeth, and you're looking at yourself with hope again, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I literally looked at
her. So now,
and
what you wanted, you felt maybe a little closer to manifest.
I saw her. She was beautiful, and it was bizarre. You know what's funny? What's interesting is I can't go back and have a conversation with her because I really, as I tell the story, cannot imagine what I put together to make this happen. But when I looked at her, I said, we're going to do this. And there's a picture when we're all on stage. Thank God my dad loved taking pictures. And there's a lot of very cute girls there. Any girl could have won this. But I remember very distinctly when we talked to the judges who were sitting below us, this drive that I had, it was not about me. I didn't want to be a beauty queen. In fact, I wanted anything but. It was a means to an end. And I kept looking at my mom and dad behind them and thought, I'm doing this for you guys. And I remember there's a picture of me the moment I won. And it's miraculous. Wow. It's like, oh my gosh, you got it. And what's funny is the story is only good about walking in saying, I want this, is that I did get it.
Yeah.
And then I went on to the nationals.
What did your mom, what was her reaction? Because remember, she was the one that said, well, that's not for us.
My mom, God bless her soul, she had a mentality. And I feel bad for people who are surrounded by family members who don't believe in them. You trust the family member and they give you their insecurity. My mom said success is for other people. She believed that good enough was good enough. False identity.
We were talking about this yesterday.
Yeah, we were. And she loved me more than anything, but she knew she just didn't have anything. She grew up living on the couch in the 1-bedroom apartment that her immigrant parents had. And she was like, we're doing really well. We have a house, we have a roof over our head, and you don't need to want for that much. You're happy, be happy. And then eat. That was the other thing, have something to eat. And we go off to the nationals, and this is interesting because it's in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's 1977. And they made you fill out this sheet about not only where you were from, what you did, your religion, and you can't do that today. But I'm there, they're all like, y'all have the funniest accent I ever heard. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? I have an accent. That's how we talk in New York. What's wrong with these people? And I had no idea how bad my accent was. And they're like, y'all have trees where you live? I'm like, I don't live in New York City. What's a bagel? I'm like, okay, you guys, it's like a donut without a sugar. I'm like, Mom, can you help me? I was so out of place. These little girls had trained to be in pageants their whole life. I was so out of place. I was so prejudiced against for a variety of reasons. And I didn't win. I did get on TV with Bob Hope. I got great photos. And it's a great thing because I went on to the Jerry Lewis telethon. It really was and I got a scholarship to college. But I learned a lot about prejudice and how we don't understand each other. And I went off to college to be a lawyer because I thought, okay, that's just what I'm going to go do. But in my heart, I always wanted to be that actress. I wanted to be that James Bond. I wanted to experience life. And I also told you an interesting story, too, about an experiment that happened when I was 10 years old. That I went to school one day, and all the kids with brown eyes had to stay after school and get extra homework, and were told they weren't good enough. And all the kids with blue eyes got extra credit, got to go home early. And I'm like, I'm hazel. They're kind of bluish green. And I'm like, no, you're in the brown-eyed category.
Dang. When you told me this story originally, I was like, well, who would allow this to happen? But they pitched it to the parents in a good way. Like they're going to be able to experience what it feels like to have prejudice against them, and that'll make them better. That's kind of how it was pitched, right?
So you set the stage. We lived in a very all-white community, and it was Jewish and Italian, pizza, pasta, and matzah. And they wanted these kids to understand and feel what it felt like to be judged on something you can't change.
Right.
And I will say that I'm grateful because my third philosophy here is that life happens for you, not to you.
Yep.
I'm so glad that they put me in the brown eye category because I developed a great sense of awareness about how not to judge people on surface. And I'm grateful for this. But I went off to college and I thought, I'll be a lawyer because I'm smart. And that's you. In fact, if you were smart in my high school, you were either a doctor or a lawyer. If you don't like blood, you had no choice. Oh my gosh, we need better guidance counselors.
Yeah.
But I wanted to be an actress. Now here's a story that you don't know. In my high school, we had a lot of plays, and I would always audition for the plays, and I always got very bottom, townsperson, number 3, or chorus. I never had a character with a name. I never had any lines, but I auditioned all the time, and I was in all of the plays, and I just watched other people get all the accolades, and I kept thinking, I just think I'm meant for more. They don't know. Well, I guess
where did this drive come from?
I just had these big dreams. I always have. I can almost want to say how blessed that I'm sitting here talking to you and sharing this with the world, because that little girl, even though she wanted it, had a lot of barriers to overcome.
Yeah. But that's what made you great. Go ahead.
Honestly, I have survived so much, and I appreciate that I get to see her and go, yeah, you know what? I did that for you guys. I'm on a show about pain to purpose because I've lived so much pain.
Yeah.
And so I auditioned it was my senior year, I auditioned for Shakespeare's As You Like It. I'm in the drama club, but I go to the call board, and I remember looking at the very bottom to figure out what chorus person am I, what townsperson. My name's not there. Now, I did have a fair amount of insecurity that built up over time. And I said to myself as I'm looking at this, okay, just not for you. You're just not that good enough. Now, here's a really weird moment. The universe has a very funny sense of humor. So I looked to see who got the lead role. The lead role in this play is on stage for 2.5 hours. She dresses up as a boy and a girl, and she manipulates everybody. It's an amazing character. And I'm like, okay, who got it? And there's my name. And I remember looking at it going, wait. I can't. And I went to the professor and I said, I wanted this since I was a little girl to be the lead in a play. And now my senior year, when I'm going to go up to be a lawyer, you give this to me? Why? And he sat me down in a chair just like this, and he told me all these things about me. And I did the play, and it was wildly successful. And I believed in him that the belief in me was right. And on that note, I called my parents when that play hit, and I said, guys, I love you so much. I know we worked so hard to get me to college, to be a lawyer, to have a career. I'm going to New York City to be an actress. And they're both crying on the phone, and they're like, we love you. We can't help you. And I said, it's going to be okay. I'm going to be fine. And it was. I auditioned for my very first feature film, and I got the lead role. It's a movie called Splatter University.
I didn't see it.
I know.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you what's funny about it. It's an 80s slasher movie. And when I read the script, she's a beautiful story of a young teacher who goes to school after another teacher's been killed. And it's a slasher movie. But she has a great heart. And there was no nudity. That was my big thing because I didn't want to embarrass my parents. And I said yes. And I star in this film, which today has a whole groupie following. People love Miss Julie Parker. And it was the beginning of this trajectory of something going, you might have been made for more. Keep going. And I have not stopped. I mean, I went on to do a whole bunch of films. I did soap operas in New York. Yeah. I ended up on Broadway with Christopher Reeve. But, okay, now here's the thing. So I'm in my 20s. Now I am kind of cute. And I'm living in a 4-story walk-up in a Chinese kitchen, smelled terrible, in Hell's Kitchen. But I'm doing it. I've got crazy roommates, and we're living this life. And I was going to say about one day, so you need an agent. And I met a couple of agents, but I didn't go to Juilliard. I didn't go to any of the respected schools. And I was a little scrappy in my behavior, I guess. And one day I do meet this big-time agent. And he invites me to lunch at a hotel. And I'm expecting we're going to have lunch. Only apparently it's not downstairs, it's upstairs. So I thought, okay, I'll go upstairs. And I knock on the room. It's his hotel room. And there's lunch for us. And I'm like, I'm very naive. I really was. And I said, okay, great. We're going to have lunch up here. Only I was supposed to be on the menu. And luckily he was shorter than I was. And he started to chase me around the bed. And I remember thinking, You've got to be kidding. And I laughed at him going, really? Really? And then I experienced a little bit more of this in offices and casting couches and things that were like, well, that's never going to happen. I grew up with some very supreme morals. My mother, I think, was a virgin at 27 when she married my dad. And there was something about that to me that was very, very important. And at some point I thought, well, how do you get work without an agent? And then something hit me. I said, you know what you do? I got a piece of stationery. I wrote CMA on it, Creative Management for Artists. I figured out how to get the breakdowns, which is what the casting people send to agents to get actors. I got them. And I hired a woman named Lindsay Maxwell. And Lindsay was British. Lindsay thought Forbes Riley was a spectacular talent. And she would call very often. And I was her only talent because I was also Lindsay Maxwell.
Right.
And so here I am. And I've never really told these stories publicly because I thought at some point they're going to put me away or arrest me. But I was my own manager for 3 years. I booked movies and television and commercials because I could pitch me better than anyone else.
The queen of pitch.
And I got a Broadway show opposite Christopher Reeve as my own manager. But this is a true story.
Yeah.
And I didn't talk to anyone. Remember, I didn't have a whole lot of friends, ever. So a lot of what I did was just on my own. I had conversations with myself. And it's what I did for years. And then at some point in the 80s, New York City got so bad. And I really had big dreams, but I could only get so far being my own manager. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to LA. And I did. And now I'm deciding if I should tell you guys something I've never really talked about.
Yeah.
I was working as an actress. And when I wasn't working and I landed a Broadway show, this is, you're doing all these amazing things. And I have killer stories, way more than we have time for. But something happened because you need to make money. And I'm a terrible waitress. I literally had a waitress job for one day. I got my real estate license.
I would think you would be an amazing waitress. It must be, it must be your scatter. I don't know.
Yeah, no. It did not work. Because I would chit chat with people. I'd want to talk to you. I want to get to know you.
Of course, yeah.
So you got food orders, and that's not happening.
Yeah.
I got a real estate license for one day. I literally got my license, showed one couple an apartment, and thought, I can't do this. And then the question on the table was, what are you going to do? And, dear friend of mine, it was the actor strike in the early 80s, and he called me and he said, I got a goofy idea. He brings me to his, back then, 42nd Street was X-rated theaters, and he was a comic. He reminded me of Paul Rudd, kind of funny, little goofy, and his best friend was an agent for strippers, and he looked a lot like George Clooney. So you got goofy and kind of handsome, and they said, we've got an idea. We're going to create a company called Stripogram. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. He said, yeah, we don't really know either, but here's what we want to do. We tried it. We want someone to go into a company, into a business, and pretend, this was long before punking, and literally punk an executive, and then you're going to dance off your clothes down to kind of like a little bikini. And I'm like, huh. He said, yeah. He said, so, well, because I'm like, oh. He gave me $50. He said, go downstairs and get a garter belt. I'm like, a what? He's going to go downstairs. And remember the woman in Beetlejuice? That kind of,
Yeah.
So I get downstairs to this, and she's like, what do you want? I need a belt. She's like, what kind of belt do you need? I'm like, I need a garter belt. She's like, give me a minute. She comes out with this thing, and I'm like, there's nothing. I'm like, what do you do with this belt? And she put stockings on me, and I got the whole thing all set up. It's like, it felt pretty sexy, pretty nice. I go back upstairs, and I talk to them. And they said, well, we'll put on the music, you're going to dance off your clothes. And I'm like, what part of this doesn't sound like a conservative, and I can tell my mother what I'm doing? But there was something about it.
See, this was so not who you were before.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But there's something about it that seemed kind of fun. And again, don't ask me why I took this challenge.
There was some intrigue in the fun of it, and there was something because you definitely were going outside of who you were.
Well, now here's what I just unpacked recently. I was recently, now this is like 40 years later, I was recently in a very bad van accident. And I ended up going through some things. And what came out of that was me remembering something that happened to me when I was 15. I was wearing a bikini. My dad, God bless him, who loved me so much, told my mother that he was going to teach his first kid to fly before she would drive a car. He loved flying seaplanes. It's one of his passions. We didn't have a whole lot of money. So he got some friends who could fly planes. And one day, I'm 15, and I had gone up for the first time, and it was kind of fun. And he said, kind of like to a guy like you, but it was in his 30s, give my daughter, go out to the beach and, go flying. It was very innocent. We go out to Montauk Beach, we land, and the runway dead ends into a beach, which dead ends into the Atlantic Ocean. There's nobody there. There's no cell phones in 1975. I'm 15, he's about 30. and he had very different intentions. And so he ended up molesting me, and there was nothing that I could do about it. And we get back.
So wait a minute, you didn't have any recollection?
No, hang on. This is what I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
Oh, I knew that part of the story. I knew this happened.
All right.
And I was fine with what had happened. I'm like, okay, what happened? But this is the part that I didn't remember. We were flying back, and there's a bridge, a steel bridge that gets Fire Island to Long Island. And I'm in the passenger side, he's in the pilot side, and he leans over again to touch me in the plane. And the plane, as he does, veers over this way, and we are literally going like this right into the bridge. And he pulls up just, I could literally have licked the bridge. That's how tight. Talk about traumatic. I land, and my father says, so how was your afternoon? I said, it was fine. What are you going to tell your dad? He's going to kill this guy or kill me, or I didn't know what.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do. I didn't say anything. I come home. My mother says, how was your afternoon? I said, it was fine. I walked upstairs. I closed my door, and I forgot about it. And I never talked about it, never told anybody. Literally last year, I was in the middle of a weight loss challenge, and I guess I'd lost enough weight. I'd stored something in my body, and all of a sudden this bridge comes flashing into my face. And I had no idea what I was looking at. And then it all came flooding back. What had happened, the trauma of that moment. And then I thought about all the things that had happened that I just never even dealt with. But it now explains to me that maybe all those telegrams, because I ended up doing stripogram for almost 10 years.
Oh, wow.
It's a whole nother story. I know we don't have time for everything that went through to me, but I had a rule. No sex, no touching, no nudity. And I embarrassed you to no end, being the man in charge. It was like I was given a key to the psychological kingdom. I would walk in. I stopped Wall Street for 7 minutes. Now, let me tell you something. This was really interesting. And I got to make my own scenarios. Your wife would hire me to embarrass you on the podcast. She might say, Forbes, you're going to go in and pretend to be this high-level CEO, and you're going to sit there and talk to Daniel for like 10 minutes. And then at some point, you're going to go, Daniel, I want you to hear this song. And it would have been your birthday. Happy birthday, Daniel. And you're like, okay, that's weird. She's singing. And then the music would go, da-da-da-da-da. And I would move this away, da-da-da-da-da. And I'd have all these clothes on. And right here on a podcast live, I would strip down to like a bikini. Your wife, girlfriend, and everyone in here would be looking at you. And I would have embarrassed you. And they would have given me a $100 tip. And I would have walked out.
Could that have been the control that you now have over when you were out of control?
Let me tell you something. I didn't understand why I love this, but
you loved it.
Let me tell you something. Two things happened. One, I got paid in cash, and I got tipped, which means you would make $50 to $75 a telegram plus a tip.
Yeah, but there was something more psychological than that.
No. But at some point, I had $10,000 stuck in my drawers at home. I mean, I come from no money.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I had cash everywhere. But I did not realize why I loved it so much until last year.
Yeah, the van accident.
Yeah, it was my control. It was the only control I had over men.
Yeah, that's where I was going with it. Yeah,
I know
exactly.
Man, I want to make this into a series because I think Stripogram is a great story. It evolved into a very big company. It was really a very lovely adventure. How it became the two of the guys and myself, and all the crazy stories. I did one on a set of a soap opera. I did one on a commuter train. I was weirdly, you talk about who is this girl? Who takes their clothes off on a commuter train at 6 a.m. in the morning?
Yeah, right. It's like, and we're getting there, but it's like now you are empowered, driven to help women. And I think, we've had this conversation. I think women right now are set to change healthcare. I mean, and the health of America and in so many things and business. And, I see where it's all come from now. It's like, it's just so clear to me of what you've been called for such a time as this.
That's exactly what I feel like.
Yeah.
I have got you will never have a guest who'll sit here and tell these stories ever.
Yes.
And I'm still in my 20s in this story.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Yeah.
But oh my God, and there's so many. I wish that she then had someone to talk to, but I didn't. I just kept moving forward, and maybe to be here for a time like this.
Yeah. Because
it gives me a crazy sense of confidence, and I'm not all that confident. If that makes sense. I'm a bit of an introvert. I would prefer.
Hold on. Wait here. What do you mean? All right.
Come on.
A bit of an introvert.
Yep.
Is Joshua in this room? Yeah. Joshua. She's a bit of an introvert.
I watched a TED talk called They're looking at my husband going, really?
Yeah.
I watched a TED talk called The Extroverted Introvert. You know what introverts don't like? They don't like small talk. If you noticed last night at dinner,
that's me. I said, yeah,
right.
I know.
I'll talk marketing with you all day long. I'll have conversations like
same
this.
way.
I will stand on stage and
small
empower
talk.
a room.
Mm-hmm.
But I come to a party.
I suck at small talk. I hide behind my wife.
Right.
Yeah, because she just, it's natural to her. Small talk is actually really interesting when she does it. When I do it, you can tell something's wrong.
Isn't that
You
funny?
don't like it.
And so the qualities of an introvert, and it's kept me from a lot of different things, by the way. But if I'm the center of attention, I know how to hold the court. If I'm not, I will, and I don't drink at parties, so I don't go to parties. Because I always feel like I don't know what to do. I don't know who to talk to. If I'm not comfortable with people, I just stay in the corner or I leave.
I'm the same way.
Right. Are you an introvert?
I am. But people don't think I am because I'm on stage. I'm doing this. But I'm an introvert by every definition.
Here's how you know you're an introvert. First Friday night of COVID, I remember this very well. I'm like, yes, nobody gets to go out. I don't have to worry about it. I was so happy to be home. Everybody was at home. I can't express to you how much I love that. That's an introvert.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I get it. But, here's the interesting thing, right? Yeah, my wife would be out of her mind, right? She was like, we're going anyway, right? So she made it happen, right? She's an absolute extrovert. So that's why it's easy for me to just go in her wake. And I go into a party, I'm always behind her, always, because she just makes it easy for me. But once the conversation opens up into something like meaningful, I'm all in. But it's getting there? Oh, no. Yeah.
It is. I don't like labels. Because you can fast forward through my story. I currently have over 47,000 students, and I hear how people label themselves and diminish who they are. And I realize that is just not healthy for you. How do you know you are an introvert?
Yeah.
Well, I have certain signs. For me, when I kind of figured that out, it wasn't to diminish it. It was just to kind of understand some of my quirks. It's like, well, why don't you do that? I'm like, I just didn't. I don't like picking up the phone and making cold calls to people. A lot of things. I love the internet. I love, it's great that you can meet people. LinkedIn, I can find out all about you and then connect you and feel comfortable. So being able to compensate, people say, you have ADHD. Great. I get more done in an hour than most people do in a week. It's a superpower.
No, my son is ADHD. He runs company. I mean, he's amazing, right? It's a superpower. So I perceive ADHD as like this positive thing because I watch my wife, I watch my son, and I'm like, dang, I wish I had a little bit of that. It's like, so I don't think of it as a negative thing. We talked a little bit about false identities, right? And I mean, you had so many false identities put on you, right? And just, and I describe false identities as labels that are given mostly by people who love us dearly, our parents, brothers, sisters, teachers, who really care, but they just randomly say things, right? That or maybe, look true on the surface. But anyways, we take on these labels and then those labels become us. And then that holds us back. And coaching adults, doctors for so many years, I realized it's the false identities that are holding people back, right? Mm-hmm. Yours didn't. I mean, yours didn't. I mean, you were given a lot of false identities. So what the heck? How did you break through? Because I find when I'm coaching people, it's hard to get them to not believe these false identities. And, listen, I believe we are all striving for, the true identity is who God created us to be. I see you so much of that, maybe even more so than you. I just see you who you are meant to be, who God created you to be, despite all this, but my gosh, how'd you get there?
Wow. How much pain do we have time to talk about? But also so much success. It's very confusing. And I got to Los Angeles. One of the first things that I did.
You're confusing. Actually, yeah, this is exciting.
Okay. Let me go down a couple of crazy things that just happened because I have this unabashed desire to do whatever that is. I walk into a comedy club. I've never been in a comedy club before. And they have a whole list of, names. I guess it was the end of the second day. I walked on stage. In fact, I walked in wearing a dress, carrying some pants. And the woman said, well, just get on stage. I said, I can't. I'm not funny in a dress. She said, just get up there. And we had a conversation. And she said, come here. You need to meet the owner. The owner is Jamie Masada of the Laugh Factory, where Ellen DeGeneres and Robin Williams and Jerry Seinfeld all got their start. And he looks at me and he says, I like you. You're going to be my host every Friday and Saturday night. I'm like, what does that mean? He said, yeah. And I left. And I'm like, I'd never been in a comedy club. I didn't even know what that meant. So I went and I opened up Cosmopolitan magazine and I read Ruta Rudner had made a very funny thing about health clubs. So I got on stage on Friday night, 8:00, welcomed everybody and said, hey, and I did her routine. Because nobody, and he's sitting in the back. He's like, come here. He said, what you doing? I said, I'm being funny. He said, I did not hire you to be funny. I got funny people. You go on stage without a thought in your head, ask somebody where they're from, give me 10 minutes, and introduce the funny people. Okay, I did that for 3 years. You know what it was like to be around the greats of the great in comedy? And I was never that funny, but I got to work around that. I'm not qualified for that. I went and auditioned for a DJ job to interview classic rock stars in a place called Westwood One. It was Off the Record with Mary Turner. I'm not a DJ at all. I don't have any musical background whatsoever, but my agent at the time, who represented me because I had the comedy thing, said, no, go in. I met the producers. I get the job. The next thing you know, I'm sitting in a room like this with Foreigner, Sting, Journey, Clapton, George Thorogood. I'm like, and then I don't know anything about them, and I refuse to do any research whatsoever. So the conversation is very fresh. For example, you know Walter Becker from Steely Dan, right? Mm-hmm. I'm sitting with him, and I would say very unusual things like, so Steely Dan, how'd you get the name for the band? He's like, oh, it's the name of a steel dildo. Yeah, no, I didn't know that. Oh my, let me tell you, I said a lot of those things. Yeah. They loved me. Yeah, I was the most naive interviewer ever. Yeah. Then I auditioned for, a sell me the pen moment. This changed my entire life. A sell me the pen moment.
Oh, a sell me the pen moment.
You know, the Wolf of Wall Street. I walk into an audition, because when you're an actress, you walk into a lot of auditions. I would audition for commercials and movies and TV, and I got all kind of small things. And one day, there's a pen sitting on a desk. Daniel, if I gave you 20 seconds, sell me a pen. Go.
Yeah. What did Jordan Belfry say? He said, I think someone picks up the pen and starts going, okay, well, you need this pen because look, it's so nice. It's so shiny. No.
Right.
No.
So my moment, long before Wolf of Wall Street came out, I looked at the camera and I said, the funny thing about pens. When I went off to college, I was 15 and a half years old. I'd skipped a year of high school. I was very young, naive, and insecure. My mother used to write me longhand notes. I'd race to the mailbox to get them, and I realized a pen like this can reach out and touch somebody's heart.
See.
Jake of Body by Jake walks out from behind the camera, grabs my face, says, you're going to make me a lot of money.
Yeah.
And what he had in mind, we talked about.
Body by Jake. Y'all remember that? Come on.
Yeah. I'll send you a clip
wait
of
a minute.
this.
That was 90s. Was that 90s?
Yep, 1991.
Yeah. Okay.
And he had this vision for a 24-hour network because cable had just happened. Yeah. It went from 3 to 5 channels to 500 channels.
So now you're entering the pitch.
Well, this was crazy. No one ever taught me how to pitch. I had no idea what we were doing.
But he saw, because
yes, he did.
You brought the emotion to the pen,
yep.
Right? Not describing it. Look how nice the blue color is. Okay, yeah, no, you're not going to sell a pen, but let me tell you why this pen is going to change your life.
He had this idea for a 24-hour network called Fit TV. It was divided into 4 parts. The first part was Tammy Lee Webb doing aerobics, then Jake Healthy Living, a little workout, and then 15 minutes of me selling products. I didn't even know what that meant. And everybody brought their products on, and it was a very funny time because 2 things happened. One, I never had a body, and I never had abs, so I had somebody make jackets for me. And if you watch all 1,500 episodes, I'm wearing these jackets that cover my butt. Mm-hmm. But luckily, God is very funny. Hopefully, if you're tall and skinny and gorgeous, you also can't pitch. And these fitness models would come in, at least that's how I used to look at it. Yeah. They'd come in, they were ripped, they were shredded, and we would go, okay, so sell me this. They're like, okay, so what does it do? Oh yeah, okay, so it works your abs. Yeah. And how does it do? And I was like, okay, stand right there.
Yeah. Let me talk. Let me talk.
That's exactly what happened. I did that for 5 years, 1,500 products. It was my amazing job while I was off auditioning for movies and TV. Wow. He sold that network to Fox in 1993 for $500 million.
Oh my God.
And then infomercials started. And now all of a sudden, this girl who wanted to be all those things was positioned to be the only female who was pitching on television. You had a lot of the guys who came in who like the
it
Billy
was
Mays.
A man's game.
It was totally a man's game. And I said this once to Billy Mays, because I used to do half-hour infomercials.
Oh, Billy Mays, yeah. What did he pitch?
OxyClean.
OxyClean.
But he pitched more than that. Yeah. And I've worked with everybody. There's not a single person, from George Foreman to Tony Little to Tony Horton from P90X.
Wow. Who was ShamWow? What was his name?
Vince Offer.
Yeah.
Ron Popeil, Set It and Forget It. That whole industry was emerging as the only female pitch person was doing her thing. So what happened then was the guys would want a girl sidekick to pretty much go, that tastes good. Yeah. Oh, look at, I did a lot of that.
Oh, yeah. She's no sidekick. Yeah, I know. You're going to be like, coming out, they're the sidekick all of a sudden.
That sometimes happened. I got to tell you, as a woman, I was definitely creating new territory and pissing a lot of people off because I had a lot of opinions. Because the script would read this and I would go, what if we did that? Like, Forbes, we don't really want your opinion. Just say the line as you wrote it.
Let us do the pitch.
Yeah. And so that was interesting. But I ended up selling $2.5 billion worth of product. The numbers were insane. I had $100 million hits. And then QVC and HSN happened. They just evolved. Like I was literally like a surfer. And you know where that wave, you can feel it and you get on top of the wave and you're riding it?
Yeah.
This wave was just like made for me.
So when they're pitching, you're really watching ahead of like how many are being sold, how many are being sold. Like,
Oh, have you not been on home shopping?
No.
Oh my gosh.
I don't do this. But literally you're seeing it.
Oh, well, not in an infomercial. An infomercial is pre-recorded.
Okay.
And so you have no idea. That's another thing. You don't know who you're talking to. And this is where all my pitch theories came out. You would have to look at the camera and imagine who you were talking to. It's why I don't ascribe to something that everyone else does. Everyone believes in an avatar. And you probably know what your avatar, you know what your avatar is?
Absolutely.
Really? What's your avatar?
Yeah, people looking to get well. However, women between the ages of 35 and 65, because women are driving and owning healthcare, right?
No, but see, in a real avatar, they'll make you say, what's the woman's name? Well, her name is Sarah. She likes poodles, not shepherds. She drinks tea, not coffee. And I'm like, oh, I got to wait. And I hold a philosophy that I can create anyone into my avatar. Doesn't matter what, I've got a solution to a problem. I've got to identify that you've got the problem. I've got the solution. We're going to trade. And I will tell you, it's grossed a lot of money that way. So infomercials happened and I was just in the right place at the right time. But I will tell you, it was very debilitating at some point. Oh, you're talking about the numbers. So in infomercials, you have no idea. You're recording it in pieces and then it happens.
But QVC is different.
Live home shopping?
Yeah, live home shopping.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I get asked to do my first live home shopping. People don't even really know what this is. And I'm living in LA. QVC is in Pennsylvania. So my first product they asked me to do was a product called Biodepolis.
What?
It was a hair retardant.
Okay, I don't know this one.
I can't say the word retard without laughing. I don't want to slow the hair. I want a hair remover. And Biodepolis is kind of stupid.
Yeah, that was a horrible name.
It's horrible. I get to
You've
QVC.
sold zero of that, right?
Well, Hank, don't. Okay, so I walk into this cavernous studio. There's 18 cameras, and there's nobody operating them. So I'm not sure like what camera to look at.
You're like that, like me sometimes.
Right. In a professional environment, there's little red lights. I don't know the host, and we start talking about this, and it goes so bad that on the way out, I simply said, I'm never doing this again. I'm fine. About 6 months later, they called me and said, hey, we want you to QVC. I'm like, no, I'm good. They said, no, let me explain something to you. It's a fitness product, thing called the Orbitrack. You're very good at fitness.
Orbitrack.
And the girl who did it before you made $70,000 in a year. And I thought.
Were they saying that's a lot?
Yeah, she had 6 visits. She made 70 grand. I did 6 into 70 and thought maybe I don't ever have to be a waitress. And so I went and I pitched this product. The very first time we sold out, that first year I made $210,000. And I never looked back. Now, what was interesting is I'd have to fly whatever jobs I was doing in LA. And remember, what's cool about being an actress is you could have 15 jobs in a year. You can work a movie, a year, a day on a commercial, a week on a movie, go do QVC. I used to have stacks of 1099s. But my friends, when I was in acting class, would go, oh, you're selling crap on television. You're selling out. I'm like, you're a waitress. I have a lot of cash in my pocket. I own my car. How is that selling out?
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that pure actors, they waited for that big break for the agent to call. Meanwhile, I'm rolling in dough. I'm on television. I'm having a great time. It's not typical. I have no role models because there's nobody doing what I do.
Yeah.
And I just kept moving forward thinking, okay, at some point this will change. What did change I don't know how to fast forward this whole life, but I met my first husband and he was in politics. He was very much extroverted. And one of the things that we did that changed, again, how many times can you change the trajectory of your life? Because I had no plan. People say, what's your 5-year plan? I'm like, I didn't know I was going to be doing this podcast until last night at dinner.
That's true.
So I love being that open to it. I have a general idea of where I'm going. And maybe I would have gotten different places. You know, the thing that hurt me was focus. One of my least favorite F words. I wanted to be an actress. I also wanted to be a TV host. I ended up hosting the X Games for ESPN. We don't have time for me to tell that story, but I launched a franchise as the on-air talent opposite Stuart Scott. I don't know anything about sports, but somehow they gave it to me. And so what's interesting about the X Games, I don't know how you go back and backtrack this, but I'm doing the stand-up comedies, doing that. And there's this opportunity that comes along. I didn't know how to ski. And I remember thinking to myself,
James Bond.
That's exactly what I said.
I knew it.
I literally said, I want to ski. And I opened up the newspaper one day and there was an ad for somebody who could do a Club Med kind of bar party for ski resorts must know how to ski. So I go to this, and I'd been to Club Med a lot, and I did some work for them in the entertainment area. And the first question they ask you, and this is a really important thing to know. I went into the meeting knowing the first question they were going to ask is, do you ski? And so I don't want to lie. I said yes. And then I mumbled, just not right now. Not quite a lie.
Right.
But I also didn't think that the job had anything to do with skiing. They wanted this entertainment bar party at 4 o'clock in the afternoon after skiing, après ski.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't want people to leave the resort, and it was sponsored by Jose Cuervo Tequila. Okay, they said yes to me. They said, we want you to create this little thing, and we're going to get you to go to 10 different ski resorts this season and do a kind of a comedy game show. And I said, okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
And then I went off to a Copper Mountain. I had a Club Med, and for 2 weeks I learned how to ski. And by the time I got the job, I was a good kind of blue diamond skier.
Yeah.
And so we did this kind of comedy thing. And then they layered in a 3-on-3 co-ed snow volleyball game.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this.
No.
It was called the Jose Cuervo Games of Winter.
No.
We did in 10 years, every mountain. So 10 years I got to go skiing. I skied 60 days a year, okay? And got to do all this. Well, one day ESPN2 comes to make a little half-hour special out of what we're doing. And it was a very odd thing, and it was very wonderful. So many details I could share with you. But a year later, the phone rings out of the blue, and it's ESPN. I'm like, okay, what do you want? Well, we'd like to offer you a $75,000 2-week job to host the X Games. And my response was, who is this? He's kind of, why are you calling me? Or it's one of my friends. And they said, I'm sorry, let's put a producer on the phone for you. And they said, look, we have a piece of videotape of you last year, and we've been looking for the right project for you. And I said, yeah, okay, I'm in.
Thank you. Yeah.
And then these 2 binders show up. One of sports I'd never heard of, like street lugging, sky surfing, BMX bike. They'd not been invented yet. And then 300 athletes, I didn't know any of them. And now it dawns on me they've made a mistake. They've seen me play a reporter on some TV show. They saw the comedy thing, and they're thinking I can do this. I'm not qualified. And I said to myself, I'm going to show up. It was 1995 in Providence, Rhode Island, and they're going to fire me because I'm not qualified.
Yeah, but knowing you don't care. You didn't care if you weren't qualified or not. You're showing up.
Well, that's the truth.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I had an excellent producer, and there's a moment, I've got it on videotape, the very first night when I went live, I looked at, and here's the thing, it was a live show. So you did not get to see the recording. They did record it on 3/4 inch tape, but I didn't have a 3/4 inch deck. I got all the tapes. I remember thinking that was so very important. Stuart Scott, my co-host, was generous and amazing. And I had the best time ever, whether I could do it or not, I was doing it. And I never saw what I did. They called me again the next year and hired me back. And I'm like, they're going to fire me. And I did that for 6 years.
Wow.
I kept thinking.
I didn't even know that. I didn't know you did
20 years later. And I feel free to go to YouTube and search out ESPN, Forbes Riley, and Stuart Scott.
Yeah.
I had a kid help me download all these 3/4 inches when YouTube came out because I thought YouTube was a good storage container because the tapes were disintegrating. And I watched that first night when Stuart throws it to me. My co-host here is Forbes Riley. And I watch her, and she's brilliant. She's not good. She's brilliant.
Oh.
And I'm like, how did I not know that? How did I not see that? How did I not know that?
That's an interesting take looking back at your life.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I know why they didn't.
So what
fire her.
made you so, what in your life, we just told some amazing stories. What prepared you for that moment? What made you great?
Every little step I'd ever taken. David Richmond having a belief in me. My parents loving me even though they couldn't help me had a belief in me. No one ever said I couldn't do it. And so I just did. And I kept doing different aspects of this. And I'll tell you what.
And what did that feel like when you saw that person, you?
I hadn't really watched a lot of my own work. And I remember looking at it and just absolutely in shock. One, I was so mad at myself for not looking at that sooner because I would have had much more belief in me. You know, one of the things that people did along the way, though, was I got put down for my weight all the time. I was about 15 to 25 pounds overweight. Now, let's see. Here's a glass, right? Is the glass fat?
Looks skinny to me.
No, but it's a glass. It doesn't matter if it's fat or skinny, it's a glass. It looks fat if you hold it next to my finger.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm kind of normal weight in real life, but on TV, if you put me next to somebody who's 15 pounds underweight, I was overweight.
All right.
I did a Broadway show with Christopher Reeve. The first thing he did was send me to Overeaters Anonymous. I was told to go on every diet. I had an Academy Award-winning director, John Avildsen, on the phone with me. There was a movie with Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi called Neighbors.
I remember that.
And I'd auditioned for the role that Kathy Moriarty played. And he calls me on the phone. And he said, we really love you. And he said, I'm doing this. I'm not supposed to even call you or talk to you, but if you could just lose the weight they're telling me that you need to, it's yours. I couldn't. I think I ate a donut. I think I was such an emotional eater. All the issues that I had, let's go back. And this is an interesting thing.
Yeah.
So let's just fast forward to something that's on your topic about pain. So all the things that had happened to me, losing my grandma, having my dad in an accident, my mother got held up at the house at gunpoint when I was a kid, and that traumatized her. And all of those things, the molestation, all found a place in my body. And I remember thinking, how do I shift this? And I went to my very first self-help kind of conversation. And in that meeting, there were hundreds of people. And he said to us, you all have to come in when the music stops. After your break, you have to be in your seat. We all agreed. You all promised to be in your seat when the music stops. So, of course, the music stops. I'm rushing my seat. I'm such a good girl. And there's one woman who's standing up. And she rushes in and she's like, oh, so sorry. And the big Tony Robbins-ish kind of guy says, please leave. She said, no. I had to go to the bathroom. I had to get on the phone. Please leave. How do all your excuses show up in your life? You're not welcome in this room. You promised that you wouldn't do that. I'm hysterical crying. I'm like, oh, please let her in. And all this emotion came up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he finally did let her in, but it was a traumatic moment in my life. I will never forget that. And he made us all make a promise. And my promise was, because I didn't even realize I was doing this, that I was going to go home that night and not open the refrigerator like I always did and find comfort in whatever food I saw. And so I made that promise to myself. And I go home that night and I open the refrigerator and something happened. You can feel the cold on your face. And there was a chocolate cream pie there. And I could eat a cream pie with no utensils. I had an overeating issue. And I didn't know that I stuffed down my emotions with food.
Right.
And all of a sudden I'm going to eat it and I hear this little thing go, you just promised not to do that. The other one says, screw you, we're hungry, we're going to do this. And I'm literally standing between these two images having a conversation about what I just promised to do and the little angel and little devil. And at some point I got so upset, I closed the door. I said, just go to bed. And I sat there all night long, couldn't even go to sleep. And I'm like, what's going on with me? What's happening here? And it was the first kind of come to Jesus where I realized some part of me had been lying to myself, that I really was eating out of this frustration. And it didn't happen until many years later. I wrote a little book about this called Eat, a journal for what you eat and for what's eating you. And I went through some self-help trainings and I realized all the issues that had been plaguing me in my life were insecurity, were lonely. And I'm grateful that I got that. Something spurned inside of me, and I've been asking this question ever since. When I see people in that kind of pain, because pain recognizes pain.
Yes.
And I can look at you and simply ask you a question. What's your very first memory in life? What is it?
I think just always my aunts, uncles, cousins.
Give me, wait.
Being over at the house.
I got it. Give me one memory.
Yeah, it was poker night.
How old are you?
Just
that moment. How old
probably
are you?
this high. I don't even know how old I am.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
And what exactly is happening in this memory?
My Uncle John's laughing.
Okay.
What
decision did you make about life at that moment?
That I love family over, I think. It's like I love people.
So wait, but listen to this. I love family over. I've been to your house. You invited me to stay at your home.
Yeah.
You have a beautiful family. That is, I believe, the programming in your hard drive. I love family and people.
It's true.
Now, did anything traumatic happen to you when you were little?
Well, I remember one that I remember crying in my crib, and it was a spider that I had my mom looking for a spider, and I thought the spider was this big.
Okay.
And I made them
hang on.
Going over. So, but by the way, I'm saying this, but I was in a crib. So how old could I be?
About 3 or
right?
4. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So here's the crazy thing about that. What decision did you make about life about that?
I hate spiders.
No, but something more. Your mom somebody came to help you.
Yeah,
Did
my
your
mom.
help you?
I remember
always
my
had a great
mom coming
relationship
up.
with
But then
women?
she ended up having to get my father because we had to lift things.
Okay. I don't believe that memories are real. I believe it's a story that you've told yourself.
Because how could I even remember that? I don't even know if it was real.
But the decisions you make about life are real. So for example, you've got a kid who falls out of a tree, breaks his leg, Good Samaritan comes to help him, takes him to the hospital. His decision at that moment is people are wonderful and he becomes a pastor. Same story. Another kid falls out of a tree, breaks his leg. People come to help him. His decision is, mom and dad are never there when you need them. I can't stand them. I need other strangers to help me. He becomes a criminal. Same incident, different decisions about life. And what I've concluded through all the work that I've done, and I'm very inspired to do this work, is that you want to remember the very first one. See, and I look at your life, and you are very family oriented. I don't know about spiders, but I do know that you reach out to women, and there's a woman in your life who truly helps you and that you love very deeply.
Yeah.
Now, if your mom and dad had been fighting, and that's one of your first memories, maybe you become a lawyer. If they're fighting over money, maybe you become somebody who's a divorce attorney or having to, why do people do what they do?
Yeah, so these things form us, right?
They definitely form us. I very rarely
Or our perceptions of them.
Well, I very rarely meet people who have positive beginnings. Because what happens is it's a traumatic moment that most people stick. That's why it sticks. It lights up a neuron in your brain. But this breakthrough thing, because of my own personal trauma that I went through, has been something I've done under the radar to thousands of people.
Yeah.
I don't really publicize it, but I love watching the transformation. Woman comes to me recently, and she's in her 50s. She's the CEO of a company, and she says, they're going to fire me. I said, why? Aren't you doing a good job? She's like, I'm doing a great job, but I cannot seem to get on stage and talk about what I do. My hands get sweaty. I throw up, and I give it to somebody else to do. As a CEO, I have to do that. And so we went back. You know what her first memory is? Now, it's funny. Her first memory was very positive, but if something happens to you about 7 to 10 that's traumatic, you spend the whole rest of your life trying to fix and get back to that first memory. And you can see this in people. At 7 years old, second grade, she gave a school book report. She got so nervous, she peed all over herself. The kids in school laughed at her, and the teacher didn't help her. So she made a decision at that moment that she was never going to speak in front of people, that it was dangerous, don't do it.
Right.
At 52, it's still permeating her
There it
head.
is, yeah.
We do a breakthrough session. I'm very proud to say not only does this woman have a TED Talk, but she's a raging CEO who does her quarterly meetings.
So how did you break her through?
I do a thing called breakthrough, and I
What's it like?
a little too intense to do right now.
Okay.
And
Fair
I
enough. But give us the basic of it. That, you know, like, in other words, what are you trying to bring people to the realism?
One woman comes to me and she says, Forbes, I've never been kissed. She's in her 60s. What would you do with someone like that?
What would I do? I've never been kissed. My first answer would be like, well, why do you think that is? That would be my instinct, right or wrong.
And her answer is because when she was 10 years old, her parents went out of town. Her next door neighbor took her in for the night, groomed her a little bit, and had her raped by 12 guys downstairs in a satanic ritual. And the last one, when he was finished, said, whenever you have sex, you're going to think about me. She was 10. She didn't even realize that it happened for many years. When she uncovered it through therapy, she was traumatized by this. She comes to me and says, can you help me? I do what I do in my living room. And about 20 minutes later, this woman whose name is Sandy looks at me and says, she said, I've been in therapy for most of my life. I never need to go back. You did it.
Wow.
I want to fall in love. I want something like you and Joshua have.
Wow.
And it's that beautiful. And I do that a lot. And I will tell you of all the things that I do in my life, full circle, is I get to heal the little girl who is so hurt and couldn't figure it out. And I figured out a system that nobody does.
Wow.
I've watched Tony Robbins. I've watched other people do this. And I'd love to, well, Daniel, I did it for Marilee.
Yeah. Yeah.
I came, It's the thing where it's a thing I take you through.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I asked Marilee, what did she do? Well, it's kind of hard to explain, just like you said.
Hard to explain.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I said I appreciate that, because I kind of knew that.
Well, because here's what I have against therapy, and I'll say this publicly, and I've never really said it, but you have a pretty big platform. Therapy was created many, many moons ago by men, and I often say, I have a key to things that therapists don't want you to know. Freud and Jung had their head up their ass, get off the couch and into your life. If you could get over something in 20 minutes, I don't need 2 years. I don't care how you feel about it.
I believe that too.
I believe that your brain is a mechanism, and if it stores all these neurons, and if you could rewire something that is so traumatic to not bounce off that anymore, but to bounce off a sense of love and understanding that whatever's happened to you in your life, and let's bring this full circle to pain to purpose,
yes,
that it is fuel for what you get to do. And so how do I explain this? Anything that happened to you, if you can figure out how to blame it so much and fire up those neurons, and we should blame. You know, as kids, we're blaming. Does every kid blame? Oh, he did that.
He did it.
Blame somebody. I don't believe in forgiveness, which is radical. I believe that you blame them until you are exhausted. When you have no more, you then turn it around and say, thank you. Thank you to what? Well, thank you. I'm a great mother because my mom was absent, because she beat me, because I saw the way she treated men. I am so loving and benevolent because of that trauma. And then you get to a great thing. You're like, and it's light bulbs. I watch physical light bulbs go off around people's heads going, oh my God, I'm who I am because of that.
Yeah.
Not in spite of it.
I'm who I am because of the pain in my life.
Yes. That's exactly.
It's
That's
the
why you're
fuel.
so driven.
It's the fuel.
You went through so much, and now
Yeah.
you're on a, and then finally you say, I love you. And for sometimes I had a woman that I did this with, who went through this with her for a guy who killed her brother. She was carrying such rage and such hate that it was eating her alive. You don't say a phrase like that without it being true. She was being eaten alive. Dis-ease comes from the mental anguish. And when she said thank you, I thought the room was going to explode. And then I said, say I love you. And she's like, for 25 minutes, Daniel, at some point I'm watching, she's like, and she finally, I said, I'm not going anywhere. We're going to be here for 3 days if you don't say it. And she's like, I love you. And then something dawned on her. That her brother is gone. He's not coming back. He is in a bed. He's in his wherever he has to be. Everyone dies. And it's over for him. And when she said it and she finally embraced it, what it did for her was to not let the hatred eat her up. And that was probably the most traumatic one that I've ever personally witnessed and gone through.
Man, I did. People are out there going, okay, I want this woman to coach me. You said you're coaching almost 50,000 people. I mean, I know you're coaching people on everything you've learned in the pitch, meaning, and again, she doesn't expect you to be selling a product. It's different than that, right? I mean, it's every principle to sell what you believe in. And, but again, man, you need to coach that.
Well, I first have to say thank you. I don't know that I've ever done a podcast where I have revealed so much of my personal story.
And thank you, because that's what people need.
I mean,
you are breakthrough. You are exactly pain to purpose, changing lives, making a difference. And, not many people had those stories in their life, but you inspired many.
Well, I just turned 65. And I will tell you, a lot of the insecurities that come out of the stories are why I'm not as well known as, say, Oprah. I had my babies. There's one more thing. When 9/11 hit, my brother-in-law was in 9/11. He had a firehouse a quarter mile north of the World Trade Center. When the second building came down, all of the people who worked there were gone in a moment, except my brother-in-law, who we then put on a tour across the country. But there's a real heavy heart. I went to high school with all those guys. Right after that, my mom and dad died within a year. My best friends. It was very hard to deal with all that. And I remember saying, I was married at the time. We'd been trying to get pregnant. It wasn't happening. So while I'm doing all of these working jobs, I'm still going with my own personal serious pain. And I said, I want a baby. And I almost forgot. I was 41 years old. We've been trying for 5 years and went through in vitro. And I remember the doctor saying, you're not pregnant. You're very pregnant. And I was pregnant with twins.
Yeah.
And that miracle happened. And now for the prior 8 years, I've been raising a little boy from South Central from the Big Brother, Little Brother program. I give birth to these two beautiful twins. Life is finally good, except my parents aren't here. And 6 months later, Dexter is walking from a haircut to church right outside his neighborhood of South Central, less than a mile from Beverly Hills. And a kid who wanted to get into a gang walked up behind my little boy and shot him dead 10 times in the back, just unloaded a whole clip into him. And my little boy died on the sidewalk. And I've got two babies. And let me tell you, you want to talk about crazy pain? What do you do with all that? So what I did was I buried my head in work and I did home shopping. I did everything I could. It's why it's so scattered. I just worked. I didn't want to feel much. And I've got two beautiful babies. And my husband at the time sat on the couch for 2 years in such pain. I had a nanny help me raise the babies, and we all kind of did what we could to get through that grief and that trauma. My wedding photo, he was best man at my wedding. My wedding photo is all over the LA Times. Talk about massive. It's like, how big does your pain have to be to find the biggest purpose? I will tell you, I've been pushed to the max. And then there's a crazy video online because at some point, about a year after all of this happened to me, I realized that my house in Los Angeles was too small to raise two kids. It was only a 2-bedroom house, but it was on half an acre. And so I had brought in an architect, and he said, well, if you knock your house down, I can build, instead of cinder blocks, the same square feet. I'll give you 1,000 square feet more out of sticks, same price. But it's $25,000 to knock your house down. I didn't have $25,000 to do that. and you can't take a mortgage on a house they want to knock down. It was very confusing. And I simply said, out of my craziness, can't we just blow up our house? He said, excuse me? I said, Mel Gibson blew up a house for Lethal Weapon. So I went online, it's 2008, and I said, willing to have my house blown up. 3 days later, knock, knock, knock at the door, and it's the Die Hard movies.
No way.
And they said, we'd like to blow up your house and give you $25,000.
Yeah.
And
that's manifesting things right now.
But that's what I'm talking about. That's the part you can't even explain.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they come in, and I said, feel free to blow it up. I made a movie about this. Now, I'm going to share with you that everyone has cell phones now. This was 2008. I had a camcorder that looked like this.
Yeah.
And if you go to YouTube and you type in Die Hard explodes my home, you will see my house blowing up and my 2 little kids, they're 3.5 years old, watching their house go to smithereens. And then something happened. Daniel, it's 2008. You know what happened December 2008, a week after I blew up my house? The housing market crashed.
Yeah.
Oh no, I just blew up the equity in my house. And now myself, my ex, and my 2 kids have to live in a 1,200 square feet like garage. We have no place else to go. And for 2 years, it took us to rebuild that house. So I'm going to tell you, if you can get through all this roller coaster, there's something beautiful at the end of it. Right? Are you exhausted yet? So now what I do, fast forward, all of those stories are stories. And you watching this have stories. I only told them because you're so generous and so gracious, and I just love your energy. What I'm going to share with everything changed, and I'm going to bring you to now, because this is where I get to help other people. It's the middle of COVID. My beautiful man Joshua has had a motorcycle accident. He's going to spend 6 months in a wheelchair, depressed, and no idea what's going to happen. With no idea for anybody in March 2020. And my 17-year-old daughter walks downstairs. She's doing high school in my house with her brother, and says, Mom, let's take your business online. I'm like, no. I tried to get online. I don't understand online. It doesn't make any sense to me. I spent a lot of money, digital marketers. They all took my money. She said, Mom, I've been making money online since I was 12. Remember that little lens business that I did? I made my first $10,000 doing that. Then I started to work for your famous friends. I built Les Brown and Joe Theismann's website and their YouTube channel. And she shows me her statement. She's got $100,000 in her bank account. She's 17 with like a D in English. And I'm like, what is this? Where did you get this money? She said, Mom, they all paid me. You're the only one who doesn't believe
This
in
is
me.
like a conversation I had with my son. Yeah, same thing. I'm like, what are you doing? You're making business online? What?
Right.
Yeah.
And I sat with her for 3 weeks. She said, why don't you teach people how to pitch? I said, I don't even know if I can teach it. I'm just good at it. She says, no, you're not. I mean, you're good, Mom, yes, but I watched and you have a system and you can teach systems. I promise you, I'll make you $1 million in a year if you listen to me. What kid says that to her mom?
Right.
We had nothing to lose, and I said, sure, let's go for it.
Yeah.
We spent 3 weeks putting together what it is that I do for people, how to articulate what you do. I did this crazy thing called a webinar for people on. Remember when there was no Zoom? Remember your very first time going on Zoom? You're like, do a what?
What?
Right. I had 25 people on Zoom, and I'd already been teaching live a little bit, but I had a $1,000 product. I had 25 people in the room. I taught them with all this zest that I have, and I sold one of my product. Woke up the next morning. I had $0 in the account the night before. I woke up and it said 25K. I called McKenna and I said, what does the K stand for? I didn't know.
That's cute.
We made $25,000 in a night. We did that 4 times in a row. We were a 6-figure business. A mom who'd never been online and a 17-year-old who promised her mom she was going to make it come true. 9 months later.
You believed it then.
9 months later, we walked on Russell's stage and got a 2 Comma Club award, which means we made $1 million in one funnel.
Yeah.
And for the last 5 years, all the pain and all the tragedy and all the confusion that was my life up until that moment became my purpose. And my daughter's gone through none of this. So she kept looking at me going, Mom, why do you talk such a big game, but you keep playing small? And I'm like, you know what?
Oh.
That just really hurts.
Oh, yeah.
I knew I was made for more. I've done all these crazy things, but I carried all this baggage with me. And I did a breakthrough on myself, and I made a decision at that moment that I was going to be the mom and the rock star that she wanted me to be. It's been 5 years. We run a company together.
That's awesome.
We have, like you said, 50,000 students. I teach pitching. I enroll people into their greatness because I see visions for them. If you can articulate what you do, and then if you're stuck,
Because people don't know how to sell what they do.
I would.
Like you said to Hayes last night and myself, well, what do you do? And well, I help it. No, that's not what you do. And then you taught him how to really encapsulate what he does.
I love doing this. And there's a light bulb when I teach you the couple of things that I know. I call it pitch like a pro. Boom.
Yeah.
And then I will teach, again, quietly. I never talked about breakthrough publicly, like this public. But I will do a training underneath that, because if I look at you and you're so stuck and I see that you are writing your future from your past, my coaching's not going to do anything.
Right.
So we do an emotional detox.
Yes.
And because you can't get healthy if you don't detox yourselves, right?
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm massively committed to.
Yeah,
is
that's
that
awesome.
people finally embracing. And here's the thing, my daughter's mission statement is that she takes people 40 to 80, takes their mission and monetizes it. We have 80-year-olds
People need that.
who are now online running businesses. They don't have to be large businesses. They're making more. If it's $500 to $1,000 a month, they weren't doing that.
That's right.
The sense of self-esteem, passion, and purpose, we are gifting that to people. And I'm on a ride that has changed my life. And just so that everybody here knows, when I met you, you're that version of me who's doing it with their family. Your son said the same thing to you.
Yeah.
You didn't see it. I'm watching your success. And there's a little level of parallel. Your son is brilliant. You're doing it with your family. You're in love with your wife. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's hard to find a mentor, somebody who's been there and done that. And you, my friend, are the rock star.
My son said, thank you. My son said that to me, Dad, you need to be taking this directly to people looking for answers. People are looking for answers. You go, how? Online. What? Yeah. Boom. Right. It's like we're helping the world. And prophesied in my life, God through my wife, not only is God going to get me well, but I'm going to take a message to the world. I'm taking a message to the world. You're taking a message to the world, from pain to purpose. How do you people find your coaching?
You know, I'm still doing this every Sunday. If you just go to ForbesRiley.com, all my social media is there. All my trainings are there. Every Sunday, and Daniel's trying to coach me out of this, I go live. I've been doing live. I don't have an automated. I go live every Sunday. I've been doing it for 5 years. It fills my soul to watch people transform
Me
lives.
too, man. Me
And
too.
Sunday happens
Me
to be
too.
what? My church. We call it Church of the Fit. How does your life fit together? How does your physical, emotional, financial all fit together?
Yeah.
And I get to preach and teach. And then if you want to go on a journey to learn how to be more articulate, to finally get what you want, you know, I made a deal with myself when I was a little girl. I said, when and if I can ever communicate again. But remember, I couldn't talk very well.
That's right. The braces.
I'm going to continue to communicate and get people to get their message out. Because the truth is, you deserve to be heard. You deserve to stop listening to voices, and old voices, and people around you who love you, who tell you you can't, and listen to the one voice that proves to you that you're unstoppable.
She's the queen of purpose.
Thank you.
Pain to purpose. Wow. You're going to have to share the episode. You know how many people you just gave hope to, including myself. You inspired me. And how many people need to hear those stories to become who God created them to be?
Thanks to McKenna, I'm finally releasing, I've done lots of little books, but I'm releasing a book called Pitch Secrets A to Z. And for the last 8 years, I've applied to TED Talks to talk about pitching. And when I first did, they called me and kind of yelled at me. Said, we don't take pitches here. You're not allowed to pitch from stage. I'm like, okay, that's not my definition of pitch. I'm not pitching a business. And I tried and tried, and I hate that word trying, because I failed. And one of the things I learned from failure is embrace the failure and learn the lesson. And this last year, can I finish with one more story?
Why not?
I don't even know what time it is. It's like 6 weeks later, you're still listening to me?
Yeah, we were like, okay.
So last year, I was in a van accident. I was having a James Bond moment. I was snowmobiling on a glacier in Iceland with my family.
This is what you dreamed of.
And I said it's gorgeous. You go to my Instagram, because Forbes Riley, and look at the beautiful photos. And then we get on the bus to go home. There's 16 of us. And thank God that photo is not the last photo of my family you will ever see, because the bus skidded off the road, went flying through the air, and crashed down on my side of the bus.
You should have been dead.
No, I not should have been anything. Thank you. I might have been.
I mean, when people have an accident like that,
Oh, my
I remember
face
you
is-
sent me the pictures. I'm like,
Oh.
how is she not dead?
I have my cheek, I have my eye, I have my brain. And there was a moment, I remember when McKenna looked, she was with her brother behind me, and she said, because I wasn't moving initially, I was absolutely in shock. And I think Mom's gone. And I heard her say that.
Mm.
And I think that changed everything in my trajectory. Because at some point I will be gone. And I look at that little girl's face and I just, oh. And the funny thing out of that happened was I found some purpose. I actually went on a weight loss journey. I got fitter than I've ever been.
I watched you transform after that.
I said something crazy to myself that I was going to make this part of my life matter more than it ever has before. It can't go wasted because it just was not solidifying. And so out of all of that, I applied to TEDx because I think I have an idea worth sharing about pitching. And I am more spiritual. I am more connected. I am more loving. I think that I'm a little on borrowed time. And now I don't care what happened before. I am unstoppable. And when I look at you, look at me, I feel it. Mm. And so I applied. And I got 85 rejections. And part of me wanted to creep in, that little voice going, see, I told you, shut up. And 3 weeks ago, I opened my email and there was my first TEDx acceptance. And I'm like, oh my God, I did it. The next week, there was another acceptance. And then there was a third acceptance and a fourth and a fifth. I got accepted to 5 different TED Talks in the last 2 weeks. I'm not going to do all of them. I'm going to choose 2. You're allowed to do more than 1. But at some point, I kind of look at it and go, you know, Forbes Riley, as expected.
If you had one thing to tell them, hearing the stories going, I want my life to transition like that, what would you be telling them?
Here's the thing. I don't know if you get to live more than once, but if you do it right the first time, once is enough.
There you have it. From the queen of pitch to the queen of purpose, we haven't even seen the whole Forbes Riley and what she's going to do. She's changing humanity, so can you. Listen, please like, share, comments about the show. Please share it. People need this type of hope.
Oh,
From the queen of purpose herself, Forbes Riley. Thank you for tuning in. Another Dr. Pompa podcast, From Pain to Purpose. Wow, that was one heck of an episode. Thank you.
Thank you so much.